I'm the one telling this, and I won't soften it. The day everything broke open started like any other Friday, cloudy, quiet, and pretending to be ordinary. We were driving west from Cheyenne toward Laramie, Wyoming. The sky was the color of metal, and the wind had that cold bite that makes you roll the windows up even if the car heater doesn't work right. I sat in the back seat, watching the empty plains slide by, dry grass bending like they were bowing to something unseen. I didn't know that in less than an hour, I'd be lying on the gravel, bleeding and alone, while my parents drove away without looking back. The fight had started early, back in the kitchen, before the accident. Mom, her name's Lorraine, was shouting about time.
She's always shouting about something.
My sister, Tessa, had a massage therapy appointment in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was apparently the most important thing in the universe. My dad, Victor, was pacing near the sink, checking his watch and muttering about traffic. I told them my head hurt, that maybe I shouldn't ride along. "You're always tired," Mom said. "Get some air, it'll help you." But really, I think they just wanted the car full, wanted an audience for their noise. The drive started tense. Tessa sat up front, talking about oils and pressure points, the kind of stuff she loved, and I never really understood. I had my earbuds in, trying to drown out her and Dad's grumbling. But then the wind picked up hard, and Dad cursed under his breath, gripping the wheel tighter. The car jerked once, twice. I felt my stomach twist before the sound hit. A tire blew out with a deep, ugly pop. The whole car lurched left, the seatbelt digging into my chest. Metal screamed against the guardrail, and we spun once before landing nose first in a shallow ditch. When I opened my eyes, the world tilted. I could taste blood in my mouth, warm and thick. My head throbbed, and my vision swam like I was underwater. "I think I'm bleeding a lot," I said, though my voice sounded far away. Mom twisted around in her seat, looking at me with irritation instead of fear. "Don't pretend," she said flatly. "It's just blood that's flowing." That's what she said. It's just blood that's flowing. I still hear it sometimes when I wake up in the dark. Dad climbed out, cursing about the car door being jammed. He yanked Tessa's tote bag from the back seat, the one with all her massage tools, as if that was what mattered most. I tried to sit up, but the whole world spun. My vision went black for a second, then came back in sharp bursts of color. "I need help," I whispered. "Please." He glared at me like I'd insulted him. "Shut up. Stop being dramatic," he said. And then they just left. They got back in the car, the one that could still move, and drove off toward Providence like nothing had happened. Gravel spat up from the tires, peppering my legs. I watched the red taillights fade into the horizon. I don't remember crying, just the sound of the wind filling up the space where their voices had been. I must have passed out for a while. When I came to, I heard a truck pulling over, the crunch of tires on gravel. A man's voice called out, "Hey, you all right there?" He was a rancher, maybe in his 50s, with weathered skin and a calmness that didn't match the panic in my chest. His name was Lionel Brooks. I learned that later. He knelt beside me, pulled a clean bandana from his pocket, and pressed it gently against my forehead. "You hold this tight," he said, his voice steady. "You're gonna be okay. Ambulance is on the way." I nodded, though I could barely move. I remember the smell of dust and leather and something faintly like hay. He didn't look at me like I was a problem to solve. He looked at me like I was a person. That alone almost made me cry. The ambulance came faster than I expected. I remember the flashing lights reflecting off the side of Lionel's truck. 2 EMTs ran toward me, one of them a woman with quick hands and kind eyes. "You're okay, I've got you," she said as they lifted me onto the stretcher. Her name tag read Evelyn Hart. Funny how you remember names when they speak softly to you. I clung to her voice while the siren wailed. It was the only thing that sounded human. At the hospital in Laramie, they cleaned the wound on my forehead, stitched it, and told me I was lucky. "No concussion," one nurse said, smiling like that was supposed to make everything better. I didn't tell them about my parents. I didn't even give their names when they asked for an emergency contact. I just said, "No one," and watched the nurse's face fall. I knew she wanted to argue, to insist everyone has someone. but I didn't. I spent 2 nights in that hospital bed, listening to the machines hum and the clock tick. Lionel stopped by the next day with flowers from his wife's garden, daisies, a little wilted but sweet. He said, "Did they find your folks?" I shook my head. He sighed and said, "Well, some people don't know what they've lost till it's too late." I wanted to tell him they'd never know, because I'd never let them. I didn't tell Lionel or Evelyn or anyone else that a week earlier, I had won the lottery. $5 million. The ticket was still folded in my wallet, pressed between an old grocery list and a movie receipt. I'd bought it on a whim at a gas station outside Nashville while on a business trip. I still remember the clerk, a kid with braces who said, "Hey, maybe you'll get lucky." I'd smiled back without knowing he was right. The night I checked the numbers, I screamed into my pillow. Then I hid the ticket and told no one. Not Mom, not Dad, not even Tessa. Especially not Tessa. I'd planned to tell them later, once I'd figured out what to do. But life has a strange way of deciding for you. Lying in that hospital bed, I realized that maybe I'd been given a kind of gift that had nothing to do with money. I'd been handed proof of what love wasn't. Proof that blood doesn't mean loyalty. Proof that silence, when chosen, can be louder than shouting. When they released me, I didn't go home. I took a cab straight to a small motel on the edge of town. The kind of place that smells faintly of bleach and coffee. I sat on the bed with my stitched-up forehead and pulled the lottery ticket out again. I ran my fingers over the numbers. They hadn't changed, but I had. I wasn't going back. Not to Cheyenne, not to them. I looked at my reflection in the motel mirror. Pale, stitched, and still breathing. I whispered to myself, "You're okay.
You've got you."
It was the first time I truly believed it. That night, I slept with the ticket under my pillow, the sound of passing trucks filling the silence. I dreamed of open roads, blue doors, and a life that finally belonged to me. When I finally left the hospital in Laramie, I felt like a ghost in someone else's clothes. The nurse gave me a packet of bandages and said, "Change these every day." I nodded, though what I really wanted to change was my whole life. I took a train east toward Michigan, the place I used to call home. The ride was long and quiet, just me, my stitched forehead, and the folded lottery ticket tucked in my wallet. Every time the conductor walked by, I'd press my fingers against it through the denim of my jeans, just to be sure it was still there. It wasn't only paper anymore. It was proof that my story wasn't over yet. By the time I reached Kalamazoo, the air had turned crisp with autumn. The trees were shedding, orange and tired, as if they too had survived something. I rented a small house on Willow Street, a pale green one-story with peeling paint and a porch that leaned slightly to the left. The rent was $1,200 a month, more than I should have spent, but it felt like freedom. The floorboards sighed when I walked, and the whole place smelled faintly of coffee and damp paper, like an old library that had been forgotten. Still, it was mine. The first night, I made a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table with the lottery ticket spread out in front of me. The numbers stared back like they knew what they meant. My heart pounded every time I looked at them. It had been almost 2 weeks since I'd checked them against the draw, and still, I couldn't believe it. $5 million. That kind of money doesn't just fall into someone like me, it crashes down. I didn't tell a soul. The idea of calling Mom or Dad made my skin crawl. I could already hear Mom saying, "You're exaggerating again," and Dad grunting, "Well, don't waste it." They would have found a way to make it ugly. So I stayed quiet and made a plan. The next morning, I called the state lottery office. My voice shook when I gave them the numbers, but the woman on the line was cheerful and matter-of-fact. "Yes, ma'am, those are the winning digits," she said. "You'll need to make an appointment to claim your prize in person." I wrote the address down, my hand trembling. When I hung up, I sat still for a long time. The money didn't make me laugh or scream or cry. It just made me calm. Like finally, after years of shouting and being ignored, the universe had whispered back, "I heard you." Still, I was scared. I knew better than to walk in there with my real name and walk out with a target on my back. So I looked up a lawyer that night, a man named Carter Lane from Santa Fe, New Mexico. His firm had good reviews, and his voice on the phone was low and steady, the kind that made you believe he'd seen worse and solved it quietly. "We'll set up a trust," he said after hearing my story. "We'll build good walls around your name. No one needs to know who you are." He sent me papers overnight, long pages full of clauses and protections, none of which I completely understood. But I trusted him more than I trusted anyone else. When the packet arrived, I sat on my squeaky porch steps, reading every line while the neighborhood kids biked past, shouting to each other. It felt strange, holding a document that could rewrite my life. I signed at the bottom with a shaking hand, Harper Wren Trust. I liked the sound of it. Carter put me in touch with a financial planner, a woman named Rosa Quinn from Denver. She spoke fast and laughed easily, and she made things like taxes and investments sound almost poetic. "You don't have to be rich," she told me. "You just have to stay smart. Don't let your past touch this money." Her words stuck. I'd already decided I wouldn't. While the papers moved through their quiet channels, I started cutting ties. I blocked Mom's number, then Dad's, then Tessa's. I didn't send a message or a letter. Silence, I learned, is its own kind of power. It doesn't slam doors, it locks them. During those weeks of waiting, I filled the time with small, grounding things. I painted the kitchen a soft yellow and bought a secondhand couch from a man named Earl who smelled like sawdust and kindness. I even started walking by the river each morning, where ducks skimmed the water like tiny boats. The air was cold, but it made me feel awake in a way I hadn't in years. On one of those walks, I thought again about the crash, the guardrail, the blood, the way my parents hadn't even looked back. I realized that was the line in my life, before and after. On one side stood the daughter, who begged for attention. On the other hand was the woman who refused to beg again. When Carter called to say the transfer was complete, I was sitting by that same river, watching the sun slide through the trees. "Congratulations," he said. "The funds are now secure under your trust. You're officially a millionaire." I laughed softly, more out of disbelief than joy. "So that's it." "That's it," he said. "Now you start living." I hung up, closed my eyes, and breathed. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about what I didn't have. I was thinking about what I could build. That evening, I went grocery shopping at a small market downtown. I bought everything I used to skip because it was too expensive: fresh strawberries, Real butter, good coffee beans. The cashier, a boy who couldn't have been older than 19, smiled and said, "Big dinner?" "Big life," I said, and he laughed without understanding. When I got home, I cooked a proper meal: chicken roasted with herbs, mashed potatoes made from scratch, and a glass of red wine from California that cost $32. I ate slowly, savoring each bite like I was teaching myself how to live again. Later that night, I took out my journal and wrote, "You are not what they left. You are what you decided to keep." The next day, I drove out to the edge of town and bought a small notebook and a set of colored pens. I wrote down everything I wanted to do: places to go, things to learn, people to help. The list wasn't about spending, it was about reclaiming. Still, part of me ached. No matter how many times I told myself they were gone, I could still hear Mom's voice saying, "Don't pretend." Sometimes I'd wake up thinking I heard Dad's footsteps in the hall. Trauma doesn't care about bank balances. It sneaks in anyway. But money gave me room to heal. It gave me a roof that didn't shake, a doctor who listened, and a chance to rest without guilt. And that was enough for now. When winter came to Kalamazoo, I stood by my window watching the first snow fall in fat, lazy flakes. I made another cup of tea and whispered to the glass, "You did it." It wasn't the kind of victory you shout about. It was quiet, steady, and earned. The ticket had been a miracle, sure, but what came after, that was mine. When the papers were finally signed and the transfer was complete, I packed my things into 2 suitcases and left Michigan without telling anyone. I didn't even leave a note on the door. I drove south for 2 days, sleeping in small roadside motels that smelled faintly of bleach and cigarettes. I didn't have a destination at first, only a direction. I wanted to find a place that felt like a clean page, untouched by old voices. Somewhere warm, where the light stayed a little longer on the walls. When I reached Savannah, Georgia, I knew I was done running. The air there was different, sweet with magnolia and salt, heavy with history but not suffocating. The streets were lined with moss-draped oaks that seemed to whisper to one another. I parked near Forsyth Park and watched the slow rhythm of people walking, laughing, carrying iced coffee cups as if the world had never broken them. For the first time in a long while, I wanted to stay. With Carter's help, I found a house just outside the historic district. It was a pale brick home with a wide porch and a bright blue door that caught the morning sun. A live oak leaned toward it, as if it were guarding the place. The real estate agent, a woman named Helen Norris, kept calling it charming. I called it mine. I paid $1,240,000 in cash and didn't flinch. Not because it didn't matter, but because I decided to start valuing things differently. The first night I slept there, the house felt alive, like it was breathing with me. The hardwood floors creaked under my bare feet, and the air carried a faint citrus scent from the cleaning supplies Helen had left behind. I opened every window and let the night come in, warm, buzzing with crickets and distant traffic. I lay on the floor of the empty living room, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above me, and thought, this is what peace sounds like. Over the next few weeks, I filled the house slowly, piece by piece, like I was building a memory I hadn't lived yet. I bought a long, sturdy kitchen table for $3,200 from a local carpenter named Leo Grant, who worked out of a shed behind his mother's house. He carved his initials on the underside and told me, "A good table's like a heart. You build everything around it." I liked that. I found 8 mismatched chairs at a rescue shop in North Carolina that specialized in old furniture from across America. Each one had a story, scratches, dents, initials carved by hands I'd never meet. I loved that they didn't match. Life never had it for me either. From an antique dealer in Europe, I ordered a small writing desk for £1,900. It arrived 2 months later, the wood smelling faintly of tobacco and salt air. I placed it near the window in my bedroom, where the light was softest. I told myself that maybe one day I'd write something worth keeping. It took time to learn the rhythm of Savannah. People walked more slowly there, talked with warmth, and waved without needing to know your name. The postal worker, Jonah Carver, greeted me every morning with a grin and a "Morning, Miss Harper," like we'd been neighbors for years. The first time he brought a package, he asked where I was from. I just said, "Far enough." He nodded like he understood. My next visitor was a teacher named Maris Cole, who lived 2 doors down. She brought me a lemon cake, still warm, and said, "I don't trust people who move in and never come to the porch." I laughed and invited her inside. She looked around the house and smiled. "It feels like sunlight lives here," she said. That night, we played board games at my new table, and I didn't care if I won. Evenings became my favorite part of the day. When the air cooled and the streetlights flickered on, I'd sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and watch the city breathe. Savannah has this way of glowing at night, soft, golden alive. Sometimes I'd hear music drifting from a bar downtown, a saxophone tracing the air like smoke. I'd close my eyes and imagine all the lives being lived at that very moment, some beginning, some ending, all of them moving. Still, the past has a way of slipping through cracks, no matter how well you seal them. Some nights, I'd wake up with the memory of tires spinning on gravel, of blood and dust, and my mother's cold voice saying, "Don't pretend." I'd stand at the blue door, gripping the frame until the shaking stopped. Then I'd remind myself, "You're safe now. You're home." I started keeping first aid kits in every room, not because I expected danger, but because I wanted to be the kind of woman who is ready. Ready for accidents, for heartbreak, for life itself. I'd learned that safety isn't about the absence of fear, it's about preparing for it. One afternoon, Jonah handed me a letter addressed to the resident. It was from the city council, inviting me to a neighborhood gathering in the square. My first instinct was to throw it away. But then I remembered how it felt to be invisible for so long, and I decided to go. That evening, I put on a pale blue dress and walked under the canopy of oaks. People brought food and folding chairs, children chased each other, and the smell of barbecue filled the air. Maris introduced me to everyone as the quiet one with the beautiful house. I laughed and said, "I'm working on being less quiet." Someone handed me a paper plate piled with ribs and potato salad. For a moment, surrounded by laughter and light, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: belonging. Later that night, when the crowd thinned and fireflies blinked around the square, Maris leaned toward me and asked, "What made you move here, really?" I hesitated. Then I said, "Because this city feels like forgiveness." She smiled and said, "Then you came to the right place." I made one rule for my house after that. No one gets to raise their voice at me here. If someone forgets, they can use the porch to remember. It's my way of keeping peace alive. Sometimes, when I sit at my writing desk, I think about the person I used to be, the girl bleeding on the roadside, waiting for someone to come back. I wish I could tell her that she doesn't need them anymore, that she's stronger than the ones who left her behind. I look around at the blue door, the table, the mismatched chairs, and the quiet hum of my house, and I realize something simple but true. Healing doesn't come in thunder or applause. It comes in the slow, steady rhythm of a place that finally feels like your own. This house is more than walls and wood. It's proof that survival can be beautiful. And every morning, when the sunlight spills through the window and paints the floor in gold, I whisper to myself, "You built this. You belong here." News travels even when you wish it wouldn't. One afternoon, I got a message from my cousin Elise in Eugene, Oregon. She wrote, "Your parents are telling people you turned cruel after getting money. They say you forgot where you came from." I read the words twice before setting my phone down on the porch rail. The sun was low, filtering through the oak leaves, and I could hear the distant sound of church bells. I didn't feel anger anymore, just distance, like she was talking about a stranger. I typed back, "Tell them I wish them good health." That was all. No explanations. No defense. Just the clean silence that follows truth. I didn't send them money. I didn't send gifts. And I didn't send apologies wrapped in guilt. I'd spent too many years buying forgiveness that never arrived. Some debts, I'd learned, aren't meant to be paid. They're meant to be released. Instead, I turned my attention to people who had shown me kindness when I had nothing to offer. I wrote a letter to Lionel Brooks, the rancher who stopped for me on that Wyoming roadside. In the envelope, I included a check for $50,000 made out to the volunteer fire station he worked with. On the memo line, I wrote simply, "For the man who stopped." Then I reached out to the hospital in Providence, Rhode Island, the one where EMT Evelyn Hart had trained before she'd held my hand that night. I set up a scholarship fund for new EMTs in her name, $250,000 to cover their education and emergency equipment. When the foundation director called to thank me, I said, "Please don't use my name. Just tell them it came from someone who remembers being saved." Money didn't erase what had happened to me, but it gave me a way to rewrite the ending. It let me choose who got the last word. I invested $2 million, like Rosa advised. She said it would keep me safe, that money could be a shield if used wisely. She also helped me set aside $1 million for something I called the Savannah Trust, a quiet community fund to help cover porch repairs, library books, and overdue bills for families trying to stay afloat. Nothing fancy, no headlines. Just quiet help, the kind that shows up in the mail when you least expect it. I didn't put my name on anything. I didn't want statues or plaques. I'd spent enough of my life being seen by people who never truly looked at me. This time, I wanted to be invisible but useful. Life in Savannah began to settle into a rhythm. Mornings were for coffee and walks beneath the oaks. Afternoons were for tending to my small garden, pulling weeds, and humming to myself. I found a sense of peace in ordinary things, sweeping the porch, painting the shutters, hearing laughter drift from the neighbor's yard. Sometimes Maris came by with lemon cake again, and we'd sit under the awning watching the sky shift colors. She had a way of asking quiet questions that made me think. One evening, as string lights flickered across the square, she asked, "Do you ever think about going back?" I looked at her for a long moment. The air smelled faintly of jasmine, and the sound of children playing echoed down the street. "To what?" I finally said. "The roadside? The old rules. I shook my head.
No.
I'm staying right here. She smiled.
Good, she said.
I like you here. After she left that night, I walked through the house with the blue door. My house. Touching the walls, the smooth wood of the table Leo built, the mismatched chairs I'd collected from all over the country. I realized that every object had its own story, and somehow so did I. Each scar, each splinter, each dent meant something had survived. There are days when I still feel the pull of old wounds. Sometimes a sound, a car engine, a sharp voice on television, sends me back to that gravel roadside, to the girl who begged for help and got silence instead. But when that happens, I take a deep breath and remind myself, I'm no longer her. I'm the woman who lived. I started volunteering quietly, helping out at the local library, reading to children on Saturday mornings. Their laughter filled the room like sunlight, and I'd find myself smiling before I even realized it. Once a little girl asked, "Miss Harper, why do you read like you already know the ending?" I laughed and said, "Because I do, sweetheart. I lived it." That was the truth. I had lived the kind of ending most people never imagine, one where the broken pieces don't just fit together again, but form something stronger. One afternoon, I received another letter, this time from the fire station in Wyoming. It was signed by Lionel himself. He wrote, "We got your gift. The roof doesn't leak anymore, and the boys say you saved us this time. Guess we're even now." I held that letter to my chest and smiled through tears.
I didn't save anyone, really.
I just returned the kindness I was given when I thought kindness was gone. Sometimes I think about America, not the noisy version from the news, but the one I've seen up close. The one built on front porches, handwritten notes, and people who stop for strangers. That's the America I believe in. That's the one that raised me back to my feet. If you're still listening, I want you to remember this. Life doesn't always give you apologies, but it does give you choices. You can stay on the roadside, or you can build a home with a blue door and let the light back in. My parents once left me bleeding and drove away toward a massage appointment. I cut them out of my life forever. Then I wrote my own ending, one made of quiet mornings, kind neighbors, and the sound of laughter drifting through a Georgia night. I paid for it in full, and every cent was worth it.